Hi, I'm Miranda Cosgrove, and this is Mission Unstoppable. Coming up, see how one ecologist is dishing dirt on grass.
This is what's going to sustain our grasslands into the future.
And I'll introduce you to my new roommate. Meet Pedro Planscal. He doesn't complain about our mandatory weekly meetings where I spell the STEM teeth. Then, talk about a glow-up. Jackie Means shows us how to take some chemicals and make them shine.
To start this reaction, all I have to do is mix these two chemicals together.
Plus, spending some time on your phone could help wild orangutans.
So I can basically switch out all the stuff that I use for more sustainable products. Yeah, absolutely.
Get ready to meet the scientists, inventors, and heroes who help make our world a better place. The future is here. The Mission Unstoppable. Grass. What's its deal? Is it here to save us or destroy us? Why do cows like it so much? While the answers to all these questions might be elusive, they're trying to figure out a few of them at the Rapid City Forest and Grassland Research Laboratory.
South Dakota is known for Mount Rushmore, the Badlands, the Black Hills Forest, and its grass. I mean, not like the grass in your front yard, prairie grass. Today, the mixed grass prairies of the Great Plains have been reduced to just 30% of their original size. This affects wildlife habitats, food production, and air quality. But it's not all bad news. There's plenty of research happening in the Great Plains to find ways to help save the grasslands. And one of the scientists doing this work is research ecologist Dr. Jacqueline Ott.
I come from a family that has a bunch of nerds in it, and my grandfather was a chemist, my grandmother was great at mathematics, my mother was a teacher, my father is a chemical engineer, my brother is a computer engineer. I don't think they quite knew how much I loved the outdoors. It all started with them putting the tent, tying it down to the piano inside because they didn't want to go camping for real, but I did. But yes, I would say my family's always been encouraging me to be outside, and they're just happy that I figured it out.
I'm happy too, because today I get to visit Jackie at the Rocky Mountain Research Station to find out what all budding ecologists need to know. What else is there to find out about grass? Don't we mostly know everything there is to know?
Well, there's actually quite a bit. Most people, you think about grass as coming from seed, but actually about 99% of your stems that are growing out are coming from below ground buds.
I don't even know what that means entirely. Like, what is a bud? Jackie explains that buds are little packages of plant tissue that have the same DNA as their parent plant. So they're essentially a clone. That's right, grass can clone itself. And you thought it was just fun to cartwheel on.
Because grass is clonal, that means that the grass all around you could be hundreds of years old because it's just been cloning itself year after year.
That is absolutely wild.
To help me understand what she does in her particular field of expertise, Jackie takes me to the place where the magic happens, the field.
Welcome to the prairie pig.
Wow, so this is where you work.
Yes.
Look at this.
Isn't it beautiful?
It's stunning.
To find out what secrets the grass is hiding below the surface, Jackie shows me how to collect samples of buds underground, which in ecologist speak is called coring. What does coring have to do with dancing? You're about to find out.
So, a twist. Oh, this is kind of fun.
You're getting the grassland wiggle down.
Yeah, okay. Here we go.
Nice job.
All right.
Now that we have our sample, or as I like to call it, a dirt cupcake, we head to Jackie's lab to get up close and personal with our brand new buds.
This is a stereo microscope, so it can magnify things for us up to 120 times. Look, there's one.
Wow.
Two, and there's a third one.
Wow.
Examining buds under the microscope tells us all about what time of the year they're growing and how they're developing, even as the climate gets hotter and drier. And it lets us see all the dirt we collected under our fingernails. What does learning about the buds help us understand about the overall ecosystem?
Buds are living below ground, so go below ground is their protected space. They can survive fire, they can survive grazing, they can survive drought down there. So they're well adapted, they're well designed to live below ground and respond. And if we understand how they function, when they grow out, how long do they live, when are they made, we'll understand how they're gonna start responding to future scenarios like in climate change.
Studying buds tells us a lot about the survivability of a plant.
Exactly. And this is what's going to sustain our grasslands into the future.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ott. This has been so much fun. Best buds forever?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I found the best roommate ever. Someone who's super clean, quiet, always puts me in a good mood, and would never eat my leftover pasta al pomodoro. Meet Pedro Planscal. Best of all, he doesn't complain about our mandatory weekly meetings where I spill the stem tea. This plant isn't just an aesthetically pleasing roommate. It can do a lot more than you might think. Houseplants can improve air quality like through photosynthesis, using light to absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen. And it's even more than that. After conducting several studies, NASA found that certain species could decrease indoor air pollutants and volatile organic compounds in enclosed spaces, like formaldehyde and benzene, which are carcinogenic to humans. Plants are basically like little vacuums for indoor air, sucking up all the bad pollution crumbs. If you're looking for a little starter plant, some of the best air filtering species are snake plants, golden pothos, and spider plants. But did you know plants don't just clean the air? When hospitalized, being in the presence of plants can actually help you heal faster. So what's the science behind plants being the superheroes that they are? Texas A&M University published a review of several studies indicating that greenery or even just a view of nature significantly alleviated stress in hospital patients within 5 minutes or less. This was indicated by positive changes in blood pressure, heart activity, muscle tension, and brain electrical activity. Extended exposure to nature yielded even better clinical outcomes, such as reduced pain medication and shortened hospital stays. I need to check if my insurance covers succulents. Plants can also promote a sharper focus for students in the classroom, and even keep employees happier in their jobs when potted plants are present in the office. They can relieve allergies, purify the air, promote better sleep, reduce stress, and improve emotional and mental health. Is there anything that plants can't do? Like control robots? Well, no, because they actually can do that too. Bet you didn't have plant-controlled robots on this year's bingo card. How exactly are these plants controlling robots? Even though they don't have a nervous system, plants still produce tiny electrical signals. Hooked up to a machine with intricate sensors, we can read a plant's various resistance signals across their leaves. Using customized software, these signals can be mapped in real time, thus giving a little philodendron the power to swing a robot arm. This doesn't mean plants have a brain, though. These signals fire entirely at random. Even so, I'm giving those leafy ladies all the water and sunlight they want, just in case they get a little too close to the robots. I still can't believe how much houseplants can do for us. If you want to feel less stressed, heal faster, breathe healthier air, or experiment with robot plant bionics, don't sleep on houseplants. They have a lot to offer. Oh yeah, and don't literally sleep on them either. They don't like that. Our sun thinks it's so special, creating the light that allows our planet to have life. Well, guess what, sun? With the right chemicals, we can create our own light, and Jackie Means is gonna show us how.
We get light from our phones, our light bulbs, and if we feel like going outside, the sun. But today, we're going to create light using liquid with a little help from a science called chemiluminescence. Hi, I'm Jackie Means, the STEM Queen, and today we're going to create visible light by mixing together a few chemicals. This is called chemiluminescence, which basically means emitting light during a chemical reaction. What makes these reactions special is that they don't produce significant amounts of heat, and they look pretty awesome at the same time. All I need to do this experiment is some luminol solution and an oxidizing agent. An oxidizing agent is something that introduces oxygen to a chemical reaction. Luminol solution is made up of luminol powder, water, and sodium bicarbonate. You can't buy luminol in the store, but I am a super special scientist, so I bought mine from the Super Special Scientist store. It's online. We really don't want hydrogen peroxide to touch our skin because it's acidic and corrosive and can cause a really itchy chemical burn, which nobody wants. So my PPE, or personal protective equipment, for this experiment are gloves and goggles. Gloves, and now my goggles. And now we're ready to begin. To start this reaction, all I have to do is mix these two chemicals together. But to see what's going on, we have to dim the lights. All right, team, cut the lights. Look at that blue, it's so bright. Ah, I love it. Looks like some kind of like deep sea, magical, glowing thing. It's so cool. So what's going on here? Why did it glow? You might remember that atoms have a nucleus with protons and neutrons in the center, orbited by electrons. There are different defined levels, or shells, where the electrons orbit. But when they receive a boost of energy, the electrons can jump up to a higher level orbit. But those electrons want to get back to their normal orbit. They want to go home, right? When they drop back down to their old orbit, they release that extra energy as a photon. If that photon is in a wavelength that we can see, our eyes detect it as light. For this experiment, the extra energy is provided by the chemical reaction. Heat does something similar too, like when a copper wire gets literally red hot. That's electrons giving off photons as they drop down to a lower energy orbital, just like with this experiment. Luminol is not just used for awesome science experiments like this one. It's also used by police detectives and forensic investigators because the iron in our hemoglobin reacts with luminol, so they can use it to spray and find traces of blood. But this is a safe environment, so the only blood around here is in me, keeping me alive. What an illuminating, get it? experiment! I'm Jackie Means, the STEM Queen, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
We want to help orangutans, but in a way that doesn't get all in their personal space. Luckily, they have an app for that. Marina can tell us more.
I'm always looking for the newest tech innovation. Like last night, I ordered pizza from my phone. But sometimes the latest new app isn't being developed in Silicon Valley. It's being developed right here in a zoo in Colorado.
This app can help anyone protect orangutan habitat with the press of a button. I'm meeting with the app's creator, Chelsea Welmer, the Palm Oil and Conservation Programs Coordinator at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo.
I love my job. I think I have a really important job. I have a huge impact on the world, which I didn't ever think I would have as a child. I'm also really proud when I get to see the average everyday consumer really think about their impact on the world when they're buying products. I love that feeling of being able to help somebody help our planet.
Today, Chelsea is going to tell me how a zoo in the Colorado Rockies created a smartphone app that helps orangutans on the other side of the planet, all inspired by the orangutans under their own care.
Tell me a little bit about what you do here.
Accredited Zoos and Aquariums, we are conservation organizations. So my job is strictly dedicated to conservation, also connecting the public, the guests who come here to our conservation work. I educate consumers on what is palm oil, I educate companies on their sustainable sourcing, and I also help other zoos and aquariums with their own palm oil programs.
Palm oil is an edible vegetable oil that comes from the oil palm tree. It's used in cosmetics, soap, all types of foods, and even in bioplastics like car seat cushions. And while grown across the tropics, around 90% of the world's oil palm trees are grown in Malaysia and Indonesia, which are also home to endangered species like the orangutan.
Is palm oil inherently bad? Because I've heard some stuff like that.
There is a difference between sustainable and unsustainable palm oil. In the past, it's been associated with tropical deforestation. So people cut down really beautiful habitat for animals like orangutans and elephants and tigers. The problem is, though, that if we were to stop using it, we'd have to switch to some other type of oil like soy or canola or coconut. Those oils would require a lot more land, a lot more resources. If we were to use sustainable palm oil, it's the most environmentally friendly oil we have, 4 to 10 times more productive than all the other options. These trees, they're producing these giant fruit bunches every 2 weeks. So they're that productive.
That's so often.
Yeah.
What does sustainable palm oil mean exactly?
Not cutting down the rainforest, not hurting the environment, not hurting the people in the industry. The Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, the RSPO, they're setting the highest standards for sustainable palm oil, and they're working with all parties across the supply chain to make sure that everyone's following the rules they set.
There's really a million ways to go about reaching the public, but you chose an app. How come?
Palm oil goes by over 600 different names in an ingredients list.
Whoa.
It's not easy for the average person to memorize. And sometimes that name can just be something like vegetable oil. So because it's such a specialized field and takes so much information, we felt an app was the best way to kind of distill all of it down into these easy to understand ratings for these companies.
So you're part of the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. How does that help your app?
We're an environmental nonprofit. We're not one of the companies themselves. We're not part of that industry. So we kind of take this stepped back approach that hopefully the public can trust more and understand that we're coming to this with the intention of protecting animals and wildlife.
Chelsea gave me a quick tour to meet some of the creatures that inspire the zoo's mission to protect animals and their natural habitats, like an adorable two-toed sloth named Bosco, a stunning Nile hippopotamus named Zambezi, this weird little legless lizard whose name I did not catch, and of course, the orangutans. I mean, look at her. She's fabulous. Then Chelsea walked me through how the app works. Scanning a product shows you how it's rated on a color-coded scale from excellent to poor or even no commitment at all. Or you can put in a keyword like ice cream and it will bring up a list of products and their ratings.
So it has the ice cream, it also even has the ice cream cones, it has the sprinkles and the hot fudge that you put on top of it. It has everything. So all of these companies are doing a great job.
So I can basically switch out all the stuff that I use anyway for more sustainable products.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chelsea, thank you so much for today. This was really fun. And I was so excited to learn that people have the power in their own hands to help protect orangutans and their habitat.
Yes, I'm so proud of the impact that consumers are making and also the zoo is making in protecting these wildlife and wild places.
Do you think the orangutans will be like very impressed with me because I'm using the app and how well I do it?
We can go show them.
Oh yes, the dream.
You can find new friends everywhere, sometimes in class or at your job. Other times it's at a computer science lab in Pittsburgh, like my new STEM bestie.
Hey, my name is Adinawa, and I'm a PhD researcher in computer science. I study human-computer interaction at Carnegie Mellon University. What first got me interested in STEM when I was growing up in Benin was going with my cousins to the local mill to ground corn and cassava for our food. In the course of a few minutes, this big, loud, clunky machine would turn our grains into flour. And I was really interested in how other machines could be designed and engineered to make our lives easier. When I first went to the United States, I was so enriched by all the communities that I was able to be a part of, and I wanted to give back. One of my favorite projects that I'm working on right now is using augmented reality to integrate emotional support into language learning, using technology to empower our communities. One of the things that I love about STEM is it allows me to bring so much of my creativity, so much of my intersectionality and my identity into my work. When I'm not doing research, I love writing poetry and exploring the visual and performing arts with my friends. I'm also learning to fly small planes through the flying club here at my school. I want all my STEM besties to know that STEM can look how you want it to look. It's so much about bringing your identity and your unique ideas to the table. I'm so excited that with my girl Miranda and Mission Unstoppable, we can bring real impact to the world.
Welcome back. Before we go, we have one last thing.
When I was a student, I was terrible at STEM. And because I was terrible at STEM, I wasn't encouraged in it, and I thought it was something that I would never do. It just so happened that I am actually good at it in the right applications, and you can be too.
Try a lot of different things. You might think you don't like science, but you'll find that you have some other skill set that's going to shed a lot of light to that science. There's room for everyone to do STEM in their lives, and you'll find that everyone is using it.
That's it for this week's Mission Unstoppable. Next week, we'll find out who the biggest animal snitch is. Someone said it's felines, but I heard that from a rat. Anyway, bye! If you're watching this, you must have really liked the video. Make sure you follow and subscribe, and check out these other videos that are even better. No, really. I've seen this one over 100 times.